Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of Mortal Engines. I was finally able to catch this film. I literally was in the theater, sat down, ready to go in IMAX on Tuesday night to see the screening for this film when life happened. Had to leave the theater for family reasons, but I saw it. I made my way out to the theater despite negative reviews, despite kind of a blech reaction overall across the board. I still needed to see for myself what this film was all about. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty much exactly what I anticipated it was going to be all about from the trailers, and it's pretty aligned with everything I've heard. It's not good. But let's go ahead and talk about positives first. I think the world building in general is pretty fascinating. Not wholly original, but really, in this day and age, what kind of sci-fi is wholly original? None. And of course, it's reminiscent of so many past things. And in saying that, it is very reminiscent of, obviously, the Mad Max franchise, but it adds some new developments here. It's literal cities on cars. And I thought that was realized in a pretty cool way. I liked the different little, factions and regions. Also pretty reminiscent of stuff like Maze Runner and Divergent. But the designers themselves did their jobs and realized some pretty cool things. And the budget is way too large for this film, but the budget is there on the screen. Most things look pretty solid. In particular, Stephen Lang's post-apocalyptic man I thought looked really cool. And those cities and the world building looked really nice, so there was a lot to like visually. Plus, the first 15 minutes or so of this film were really good. They hook you in. They get you excited to start the film with this awesome chase scene and really building of the intense action. They swiftly bring it back down. Then it's hard to rev back up. But the opening is awesome. And there are a couple of fun action set pieces that are thrown in. In particular, I think the action set piece involving Anna Fang, Jihai's character, is really pretty exciting. She brings a new level of energy that was sorely lacking up to that point. As for acting, nothing is great here, honestly, including Hugo Weaving, who is just doing standard villain work. He's not bad, but he's not really good. I mentioned Jihai. It's a good thing she's a pretty stereotypical, awesome, badass rogue character, because she's not able to pull off much deeper than that, but she does pull off some pretty awesome badassery. Robert Sheehan is okay as our sidekick guy, but he doesn't really have chemistry with our lead. But I think that falls on the lead. And I'm going to talk potential to bridge the gap between positives and negatives in this review, because I think there was so much potential. And honestly, if you've seen the film and you actually read any of the books, I would really like to know, is this a case of taking a bunch of books and a bunch of plot lines and storylines from stories and trying to shove and force them into a singular film? Because that's what it seemed like as I watched as an outside viewer who hasn't read the books. There's a lot of potential for awesome films here. There is a lot that could have went so well. In particular, I think the mythology behind everything, the war that they speak of, sounds a whole lot more interesting than the story we were actually given. The socio-political messages in the film obviously could have been interesting, but they were never explored. These different cities in this world could have been interesting, but they weren't really explored. So of course, that brings us into our negatives. It really is derivative of way too much. I already mentioned Mad Max because that is the very prominent and clear ripoff here. It is very reminiscent of Mad Max and nowhere near as good. And that's because it doesn't have the narrative. It also borrows heavily from things such as Star Wars. We get this Cloud City and explosions up there, a fight sequence up there. All of the ship battles, very reminiscent. And then we get this battle where the ships are coming into base and shooting. I mean, it was taken straight out of a Star Wars film. And then the world building itself felt very reminiscent of, as I mentioned, Maze Runner and Divergent in particular for me, but really we can add on all of the other YA adaptations, and that's the problem. It is a YA adaptation, so we focus on this one girl and her story, and her story is probably the least interesting part of this whole movie. One, because our actress is not charismatic at all. The character, I guess, has an interesting enough backstory, but it's nothing new. And then when you pair in an actress who really has no charisma at all and does not endear you, it's hard to get involved. Then our two little, like, romantic partner thing, no chemistry there at all. And we have a million different storylines. This is really what I'm talking about when I say something like convoluted. There are so many different storylines going on, and this is why I think that there were many books shoved into one, which, again, comment down below if that's the case. Because even within this one girl's storyline, she has her relationship to the main antagonist. She has her relationship to Stephen Lang's, like, robotic zombie man thing. Relationship to Anna Fang. Her love interest with Tom. Tom's love interest with the daughter back on the ship in his homeland. Anna Fang's entire resistance over here. It just is like, oh my gosh. Again, nothing is original or new. So it ends up being a slog. A very boring film to sit through. I was like, okay, stay awake. Because that middle drags so much because we don't develop our characters. They don't get proper development. They're not interesting people in general, and the story itself is so convoluted and it goes so many different ways that we don't have a focused narrative. That's what we lack here, that things like Mad Max have when they're so similar in outer shell, is we don't have an interesting driving narrative. Everybody has their own side missions, but we don't really know what is the mission we're supposed to be focusing on. What's the story that you want me to actually care about? Because you're throwing in these deaths left, right, and center in this film, and I don't care. Because honestly, this was like a throwaway flashback. And most of the budget definitely went into these special effects because the script is a disaster. Like, the script is just horrible. Cliche after cliche thrown in. And it's just a big piecemeal. It's a big piecemeal of better made sci-fi dystopian films that have come before it. The thing is, the successful one of those have interesting characters that we care about. Even the effects, as good as most of them are, it's all very dark. So a lot of things are hard to see, hard to understand what it is you're looking at. It's kind of just ugly. So the world building is good, and I commend it for that, for creating this place. But the place is just so ugly that we don't really have a lot of new and interesting things to look at. And then we get to, like, Anna Fang's character, who is such a stereotype in so many different ways, including the fact that she's in all red and she drives this bright red spaceship and she's a fugitive from the law. So everything is like brown and muddied and industrial and ugly. But yet we can't catch the one woman who literally runs around in, like, a bright red trench coat and drives a bright red spaceship. It just didn't work for me. There's so much going on that literally nothing is going on. It becomes white noise pretty quickly into the film, and you have to sit through almost 2.5 hours of that white noise. It's way too long, it's bloated, it is unfocused, and it comes out a mess. So my recommendation, if you are a sci-fi diehard, if you really do enjoy YA adaptations and you like those fantastical natures, I would give this a rental. I don't think it deserves theater pricing. It does look pretty good on the surface, so those aspects are there to check out. But honestly, my personal recommendation is go watch Mad Max Fury Road. That mixture of practical and real effect outshines anything I saw here. Go watch Star Wars if you're into the space stuff. Go watch the Maze Runner trilogy, because those are better executed overall. It just doesn't do it. Sorry. So, that is my review of Mortal Engines. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on our latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Mortal Engines, or have you already seen it? If you've seen it, let me know your thoughts either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!